also for the presentation of a comprehensive paper on the law of the sea. Distinguished delegates, the list of the speakers I am having includes Thailand, Sri Lanka, Iran, Japan, China, Kenya, Indonesia, and South Africa. If there is more request for the floor, please raise your hand or flag. I give the floor to Thailand.
Mr. President, Excellency, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, the delegation of Thailand would like to express our appreciation to the ALCO Secretariat for the comprehensive report on the topic. Our delegation would like to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the entry into the force of UNCLOS, which set a comprehensive legal framework governing the use of the oceans. We strongly encourage states to join the Convention and support the full implementation of the Convention with the view to fulfilling its objectives and purposes and to benefit from the sustainable development of the ocean and the sea. Currently, Thailand has progressively adapted our domestic law for better implementation of UNCLOS through the Committee on the Law of the Sea and Maritime Boundary of Thailand. The committee is an inter-ministerial body whose task specifically especially to be in charge of issues relating to the law of the sea and maritime boundary. The relevant Thai agencies are now working closely hand in hand to identify our existing law to be modified, new law to be enacted, and matter that this committee enhances coordination among concerned agencies. A new bill on mineral and marine non-living resources is awaiting the consideration of the National Legislative Assembly. Mr. President, we believe that marine biological resources beyond areas of national jurisdiction shall be treated as common heritage of mankind. It must be ensured that the immense benefits of the ocean are equitably shared by all nations and people. Last June, at the 24th meeting of states party to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the Thai delegation actively participated in the deliberation of the ad hoc, open-end, informal working group to study issues relating to conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity beyond area of national jurisdiction. In order to avoid so-called tragedy of the commons for marine biological diversity. In this context, Thailand is an unwavering supporter of a new legal instrument to govern this issue under UNCLOS. We therefore strongly urge, like my state, to unite and together work toward this endeavor. Mr. President, regarding the IUU fishing, Thailand stands ready to fight against IUU fishing activities. 2 weeks ago, among other states and organizations, Ambassador Krengsak Kittichai Seri, currently a member of International Law Commission from Thailand, gave an oral statement at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea regarding Case 21 on IUU-related questions posed by the Sub-Regional Fishery Commission, SRFC, reiterating Thailand's commitment to contribute to the importance of the issue in this area. Mr. President, the IUU fishing activities are not the only threat to marine biodiversity, but also the marine debris endangered species across the border of sea and oceans. Thailand has invested time and strenuous effort in reducing the incidence and impact of pollution on marine ecosystem through the effective implementation of relevant conventions adopted in this various framework at different levels. At a regional level, Thailand is an active member of ASEAN Working Group on Coastal and Marine Environment. We have been working on ASEAN member states' 173 kilometers of coastline for more than 10 years to attain sustainable use of marine and coastal resources. Through carefully balancing between conservation of marine species, management ecosystem, and livelihood of millions of people, ASEAN member states have made remarkable success in working together for a cleaner and healthier marine environment, with a particularly focus on transboundary migratory species in the Southeast Asian region. Mr. President, on the issue of maritime security, Thailand reaffirmed its strong condemnation of piracy and armed robbery at sea that have caused enormous loss of seafarer life and damage to maritime trade and transport. At the domestic level, the Council of the National Security Council of Thailand is currently preparing a 3-year maritime security strategy and considering the possible establishment of a Thai Coast Guard unit to enhance prevention and protection of transnational crime at sea. We understand that a state cannot fight this crime alone. Hence, we welcome the efforts of our allies in different fora. At the regional front, Thailand is actively participating in the ASEAN Maritime Forum and the Regional Cooperation Agreement on Combating Piracy and Armed Robbery Against Ships in Asia, whose governing council will be chaired by Thailand for the second consecutive terms. As coastal state of Malacca Strait, Thailand has participated in the Malacca Strait Coordinated Patrol since September 2008 and has joined the air patrol known as Eyes in the Sky since January 2009. Both operations have contributed significantly to the improvement of our overall maritime safety and security in the area. At the international level, not only Thailand is part of the contact group of piracy off the coast and Somalia, but the Royal Thai Navy has also dispatched its counter-piracy unit to join the Combined Maritime Forces for many consecutive years. The Combined Task Force 151 are performing their mission as we speak. The Royal Thai government effectively endorsed the participation on the Proliferate Security Initiative (PSI) in November 2012, in which Thailand expresses its full commitment and willingness to cooperate actively with the international community. On the issue of weapons of mass destruction, the Royal Thai government has established the subcommittees to make our effort consistent with national legal authority and relevant international law and framework, including the UN Security Council. Mr. President, Thailand has played an active role in international commerce, particularly international shipping, and has been elected to the Council of the International Maritime Organization (IMO) for 5 consecutive terms. Thailand has supported several activities of IMO, including the voluntary IMO member states audit scheme, technical cooperation program aiming at improving its member state capacity in implementing IMO standards. Thailand strongly hopes to be re-elected to IMO Council for the period of 2015 to 2016 once again. And in this connection, Thailand would be very much appreciated to seek the valuable kind support from the endorsing state gathering here in order to continue our work in this field. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Sri Lanka has the floor.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, at the very outset, I wish to place on record the appreciation of my delegation of the decision to include the law of the sea as an agenda item of the 53rd annual sessions of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Rahmat Mohammed, Secretary General of the ALCO, who, as his predecessors in office, during his tenure of office, has taken significant measures to advance the implementation of the law of the sea, which has a profound impact upon the member states of ALCO. Sri Lanka has always had the law of the sea prominently featured in its international affairs. On this occasion, it would be pertinent to recall with gratitude the both significant and commendable role played by Dr. Shirley Amarasinghe a respected Sri Lankan diplomat in the regulation of the law of the sea regime. The advancement and implementation of the rights of geographically disadvantaged and landlocked states is of paramount importance to all of us, in view of its tremendous impact upon the member states of ALCO. Equally important would be the rights of the archipelagic states. In view of the amazing advancement in science and technology and the resultant increase in the capacity to exploit resources of the sea and the landmass under it, the ever-growing interest of the international community in the legal regime of the sea has expanded to unprecedented proportions. Therefore, the necessity to regulate state activities in the sea area has assumed even greater significance. With the acceptance of the deep seabed as a common heritage of mankind, a greater demand for the regulation of state activities by legal provisions could be observed globally. The prominent role played by ALCO in the exercise should be acknowledged with deep appreciation. Ever since the famous Truman Declaration, claiming exclusive economic rights over the continental shelf on the basis that it constitutes a natural prolongation of the landmass of a state, the issue of demarcating the outer limits of the continental shelf has occupied a prominent place in the agenda of many states to which the provisions apply in view of the unique geological features of their locality. Exploitation of the resources of the continental shelf of those states which have to establish the outer limits of their continental shelf presents the authorities with difficulties until such limits are finally settled. The administrative and other difficulties associated with the demarcation process, which has resulted in inordinate delay, has caused justifiable concern to states within this category. Sri Lanka is among the large number of ALCO member states facing this difficulty. Sri Lanka presented its submission to the Delimitation Commission for the demarcation of the outer limits of its continental shelf on the 8th of May 2009. Sri Lanka's submission is due to be taken up before the Commission in the year 2020. Sri Lanka's submission has been listed 43rd in a list of many states which are similarly placed. The invariable result in the procedural delay is the deprivation of the legitimate rights of exploitation of its natural resources embedded in the natural prolongation of its land mass. Sri Lanka is an island state which depends to a great extent on its sea area for its economic development and social development. A large population in the coastal area depend on the fisheries industry for their sustenance. The sea area to which Sri Lanka is entitled for economic exploitation exceeds its land mass. The sea area around the state is of great importance for its security as it is for its economic development. Mr. President, Sri Lanka has over the years committed itself to all the efforts of the international community to regulate the provisions that govern the law of the sea. May I therefore express the wishes of my delegation that ALCO take all steps possible to expedite the process of the delimitation of the outer limits of the continental shelf, which affects many ALCO states. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Iran has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I would like to extend my gratitude for the hard work done by the Secretariat in preparing the comprehensive report on the theme of the law of the sea. My delegation attaches great importance to the historical contribution of ALCO to the law of the sea issues and support more active role by ALCO in the process of norm making in this field of international law. Mr. President, piracy continues to be an issue of serious concern to the international community, and especially to ALCO member states, as many of them active in key maritime trade routes. The Islamic Republic of Iran is also among the countries whose vessels have frequently been targeted by pirates. Since the emergence of piracy in the recent years as one of the most serious challenges for the maritime safety and security, the Islamic Republic of Iran has always played an outstanding role in countering maritime piracy. Iran has also been active in exchange of information and reports on piracy with other relevant international bodies and countries. We are pleased that the contributions made by countries like Iran to fight piracy off the coast of Somalia have been well recognized and commended by the international community and relevant UN bodies. Security Council Resolution 1950 and 2020 are evidence thereof. The Islamic Republic of Iran attaches great importance for combating impunity of offenders of piracy and armed robbery at seas and prosecution of these persons through criminalization of such acts in national legislation, as well as providing for effective and modern procedural laws that are indispensable for the suppression of piracy. Distinguished delegates, it goes without saying that protection of marine environment is vitally crucial in safeguarding the health and well-being of human beings. Unfortunately, pollution at seas and oceans have reached an alarming level, and the international community cannot afford to pay very high prices for the consequences. Another important issue, among others, is the problems caused by the land reclamation activities. My delegation would like to draw the attention of the distinguished delegations to the United Nations expression of deep concern at the adverse economic, social, and environmental impacts of the physical alteration and destruction of marine habitats that may result from land-based and coastal development activities. In particular, those land reclamation activities that are carried out in a manner that has a detrimental impact on the marine environment. In this regard, the United Nations General Assembly has repeatedly called on all states to ensure that urban and coastal development projects and related land reclamation activities are carried out in a responsible manner that protects the marine habitat and environment and mitigates the negative consequences of such activities. We call upon the Secretariat to include this important issue in its next report on the agenda item. The Islamic Republic of Iran invites the ALCO member state to cooperate with non-member states and relevant international organizations to collect information regarding the consequences of urban and coastal projects and related land reclamation activities on marine environment, as well as share information and experience on the consequences of such activities. Mr. President, in recent years, the international community has become increasingly aware of the range of services provided by marine ecosystem and of the rich biodiversity of pelagic and benthic ecosystem beyond the limits of national jurisdiction. My delegation recognizes that marine biodiversity in areas beyond the limits of national jurisdiction has a notable environmental, economic, and social importance, and it can contribute to the development of science, to better life and food security. We have followed the proceeding of the 6th Committee of the Ad Hoc Open-Ended Informal Working Group to study issues relating to the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity beyond areas of national jurisdiction, which took place in New York 1 to 4 April and 16 to 19 June 2014. My delegation is of the view that the implementation of the provision of UNCLOS relating to the transfer of technology into conservation, exploitation, and sustainable use of the marine biodiversity in areas beyond limits of national jurisdiction should be observed by international community. I would also like to emphasize the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising from the use of marine biodiversity in areas beyond the national jurisdiction, and recall that exclusive exploitation by a few states has serious global and social implications. We hope that all states cooperate in a spirit of common responsibility to reach an agreement on the legal regime applicable to the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity beyond areas of national jurisdiction. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Japan has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, my delegation would like to express our heartfelt congratulations on the 20th anniversary of the entering into force of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. The open and stable areas governed by the rule of law is a common good for all people. It is in the common interest of the international community to maintain the oceans and seas as such. UNCLOS, the constitution for the oceans, forms the very foundation of the rule of law at sea by providing the legal framework within which all activities in the oceans and seas to be carried out. Its importance cannot be overemphasized. It goes without saying that in order to enhance the rule of law in the oceans, it is of crucial importance that the states take their claims based on international law, refrain from using force or coercion, and settle the disputes by peaceful means. In this regard, Japan appreciates the arbitral tribunal in the case concerning the maritime delimitation between Bangladesh and India rendered a judgment on July 7th this year, which has been welcomed by both parties. We also commend the efforts of Indonesia and the Philippines, which have peacefully reached agreement on the delimitation of their EEZ on May 23rd this year. Japan is paying attention to the advisory opinion case brought before ITROS by Sub-Regional Fisheries Commission, consisting of 7 West African states. These all are excellent examples of the efforts of the states of Asian and African regions to pursue the enforcement of the rule of law at sea. Japan takes note of the increasing activities of ITROS in recent years. Japan highly appreciates such development as a testimony to deepening confidence by the international community in ITROS as a dispute settlement organization. Since the very establishment of ITROS, Japan has actively contributed by providing competent judges, financially supporting it as the biggest contributor. Japan also would like to mention here the long-standing contributions made by the Nippon Foundation, a private philanthropic organization in Japan. It has been in close cooperation with ITROS in the capacity building and training programs on dispute settlement under ICLOS. Mr. President, in June this year, at the 24th meeting of states parties to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, held at the headquarters of UN in New York, the Japanese delegation announced that the government of Japan would contribute approximately $50,000 to the trust fund for the purpose of defraying the costs of participation of the members of the Commission on the limits of continental shelf from developing states in the meetings of the Commission. The Commission assumes the important role of considering and qualifying the submission regarding the outer limits of the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles made by states parties pursuant to UNCLOS, and making recommendations. The said trust fund was established to support the members of the Commission from developing states who are facing financial difficulties to participate in the meetings of the Commission held in New York. Through this contribution, it is expected that the participation of the members from developing states in the meetings of the Commission will be encouraged, which in turn will facilitate the smooth and speedy consideration of the submission regarding the outer limits of the continental shelf made by state parties. Mr. President, in July 2014, at the 20th session of the Assembly of International Seabed Authority in Kingston, Jamaica, the Japanese delegation announced that the government of Japan would contribute $21,660 to the voluntary trust fund of the authority. The fund was established for the purpose of defraying the cost of participation of the members of the Legal and Technical Commission from developing countries and the members of the Finance Committee from developing countries in the meetings of the Commission and of the committee held in Jamaica. Through this contribution, it is expected that participation of the members from developing countries in the meetings of the Commission and the committee will be encouraged, which in turn will accelerate their work and achieve a smoother functioning of the authority, thereby further promote rule of law for the oceans based on the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. Mr. President, the issue of BBNJ, or the conservation and the sustainable use of marine biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, has been discussed at the ad hoc open-ended informal working group relating to that question under the General Assembly. My delegation expects that exhaustive discussion will continue to be held at the working group. Japan is of the view that the conservation and sustainable use of maritime biodiversity, both within and beyond areas of national jurisdiction, is of paramount importance for our future development and prosperity. We are determined to further contribute to the discussion at the working group. Thank you very much.
Thank you. China has the floor. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Chinese side thanks the Secretariat for its hard work in preparing the report on the law of the sea. The report is comprehensive and informative and reflects the important developments and the trend of current international ocean affairs and the law of the sea. Mr. President, this year marks the 20th anniversary of entry into force of United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, which was commemorated in June at the special session of the 24th meeting of UNCLOS state parties. Over the past 20 years, UNCLOS has been widely accepted in the world with 166 ratifications, establishing the basic legal framework for building contemporary maritime order and managing international ocean affairs. The three institutions, namely the International Seabed Authority, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, and the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, established by UNCLOS, are well functioning, with rising international prestige and influence, and provide important guarantee for safeguarding a fair and a rational international maritime order. Over the past 20 years, the principle of common heritage of mankind has been translated from concept to reality. The RSA has adopted 3 regulations on prospecting and exploration for polymetallic nodules, polymetallic sulfides, and cobalt-rich ferromanganese crusts in the area, approved 26 plans of work for exploration, and started work on the exploitation code of the resources in the area. We are glad to see that developing countries are more deeply and widely involved in international seabed affairs, which has injected vitality into international seabed affairs and promoted the orderly development of the international seabed system. The Chinese side actively supports effective participation by developing countries in international seabed affairs, and to this end has made several contributions to ISA Voluntary Trust Fund on a number of occasions. In recent years, the number of cases entertained and judged by International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea has been increasing, covering more fields and gaining greater influence. The Chinese side holds a positive view of the important role the tribunal has played in peaceful settlement of maritime disputes and safeguarding international maritime order, We would also like to stress that the work of the tribunal should be carried out in strict accordance with UNCLOS and the statute of the tribunal. The Chinese side is of the view that there's no legal basis for the advisory jurisdiction of the full bench of the tribunal. The Commission on the limits of the continental shelf shoulders important duty or delimited